Debates at the UN General Assembly well underway in New York. Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas is set to address the chamber via a virtual link today. Washington had blocked Mr Abbas's presence at the summit with the denial of visas to him as well as to his delegation. His address comes days after several Western nations recognized Palestinian statehood. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed not to allow a Palestinian state. Far-right members of his cabinet have threatened to annex the West Bank in a bid to prevent independence. But the US and European powers have opposed this plan. And Toni Waterman is covering this story for CNN and joins us from outside the UN headquarters in New York. Toni, Mahmoud Abbas is set to speak via virtual link. What will he say and how will that feed into current fierce debate at the UN General Assembly on the wider war in Gaza?
Well, the big question hanging over the war in Gaza for a while now has been what is going to happen when this conflict eventually comes to an end? Who or what is going to govern? Who or what is going to provide security? Who or what is going to help with the humanitarian and reconstruction efforts? So when Abbas speaks later this morning, he is going to be laying out his vision for a post-war Gaza, and it will be a two-state solution that will include the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Now, we got a preview of what that vision looks like earlier this week. He said that it's the Palestinian Authority that has the sole responsibility to govern. He said Hamas will not have a role in the government, that it will have to surrender its arms. And Abbas said that the Palestinian state will be a weapons-free area. He also said that there should be a temporary committee that will help with the reconstruction. And certainly we have seen a number of Middle Eastern countries, including Egypt, Qatar, the UAE, expressing interest in wanting to help with this. But when Abbas is beamed in to the assembly room later this morning, he's going to have some fresh support behind him. A number of countries, a number of Western countries recognized Palestinian statehood for the very first time earlier this week. That includes Canada, Britain, and also Australia. The support that he doesn't have, of course, is coming from the United States, which, as you mentioned, denied not just him a visa to come here to the General Assembly, but also the visas for his 80-person delegation, citing national security concerns. There's a lot of questions right now over whether that was even legal under the headquarters agreement, which really prohibits the United States from denying entry to any foreign leader they might be in conflict with at the United Nations.
Toni, of course, before we get to any post-war discussion, we need to end those existing wars. Not the only two conflicts in the world, but certainly more prominent right now, not just Gaza, but Ukraine as well. And we had the Ukrainian president speaking earlier at the UN General Assembly. What was the theme of his address?
Well, President Zelensky's speech was really a call to arms. He said that friends and weapons were really the only way to secure peace and also to defend democracy. And in that vein, he's been holding a number of these sidelines conversations. On Wednesday, meeting with the French President Emmanuel Macron and also the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, they discussed these recent incursions into European airspace by Russian drones, by Russian fighter jets, most recently, of course, the one that happened in Denmark overnight. They also talked about the need to reinforce Ukraine's military capability. The United States is now selling military equipment to NATO, which is then passing it along to Ukraine. The conversation perhaps a little bit awkward because in his speech, Zelensky talked about how he believed multilateral institutions like the UN, like NATO, have become very weak in recent years. Russia also doing a fair amount of diplomacy here on the ground. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, at a meeting on Wednesday. Of course, this coming just a day after President Trump called Russia a paper tiger and said for the first time that he believed Ukraine could win back all of its territory. Rubio's office issuing a statement after that meeting, just sort of reiterating President Trump's calls for this war to come to an end, for the violence to stop.
Well, thanks. Toni Waterman there reporting for CNN from New York.